an average 6 bushel per acre advantage. Bushels don't lie. Get more local yield results at nkseeds.com/harvest.
Servpro of Piatt DeWitt Counties is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, announced at the end of every Maroon sports broadcast. Our WHOW announcing staff will select that night's WHOW Servpro of Piatt DeWitt Counties Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, whose play will be highlighted in each WHOW Maroon postgame broadcast, and that player receives a certificate. Remember Servpro of Piatt DeWitt Counties, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. Find out their services by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
It's no secret that employers are having a difficult time hiring qualified personnel, whether full or part-time. The Miller Media Group wants to help you, the employer, to find the candidates you're looking for. That's why we've created IllinoisJobPost.com. That's IllinoisJobPost.com. This website is part of a broad radio and internet employment campaign available through the Miller Media Group. Contact your account manager or email sales at randyradio.com for more information. IllinoisJobPost.com is where we put the power of radio and the internet to attract prospective candidates.
Hey, this is Todd Gleason from Illinois Extension here with a time change for our daily market report on WHOW. You can now catch our daily review of the commodity markets at 5:06 on all of WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guests in studio today, Edith Brady-Lunny and Nelson Thorpe with us today. Good morning, guys. Thanks so much for making time for us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you in studio. And Edith, there is a special Veterans Day kind of roundtable, I guess, coming up on Saturday. Nelson is going to moderate, but tell us a little bit about this event to get us started today.
Sure. On Saturday, the DeWitt Clinton chapter of the DAR is going to be working with the American Legion and AMVETS on a special Veterans Day event that will feature a panel of 3 local veterans who will answer questions and share their stories of their service.
Very good. So who is a part of this?
So we're going to have 3 local veterans. We're going to have Jesse Owens, who served more than 30 years in the Army. We have Mark Rogers, who served in Vietnam, and Ron DeVore, who served during the Korean War.
Gotcha. Very good. So hearing their stories, is there anything specific that they'll be talking about? Anything that you want to hear from them?
Well, we're fortunate to have Nelson Thorpe with us on that day to moderate. So we have kind of some questions that'll help guide the discussion. We want them to talk about their service, some of the highlights of their service. And we want them to have a chance to share their personal stories that it's just an opportunity that veterans don't get very often.
Sure. Well, and I know that we were catching up a little bit before we got started. You helped put together a lot of the aspects of the Prairie Flyers exhibit this summer, wildly successful there. But there were some special presentations with various veterans about kind of similar, their experiences and those sorts of things. And kind of parlaying that into this event. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, one of the things that I learned, and John Warner and Dennis Hambuchen learned as we put together those 5 events, was there's a real audience here in DeWitt County for veterans to tell their stories. We had a packed room really for all 5 of the events, but the 4 that featured veterans telling their own stories, answering questions, were very popular. So we thought, well, since we kind of have that started in the community, maybe it'd be good, to continue that and ask a different group of veterans to come and share their stories.
Definitely. So again, remind us the when and where on this, and we'll transition and talk to Nelson a little bit.
Sure. We're going to have it at 2:00 on Saturday at the American Legion on South Elizabeth Street in Clinton.
All right. So put that on the calendar. Nelson, talk a little bit about what you kind of hope to get out of this. And what do you hope to get from the veterans that you'll be kind of directing a little bit?
Well, Edith called me and asked if I wouldn't mind moderating, and I don't mind a bit. And I always like to hear their stories too. I was fortunate to have a father that talked about his experience in World War II. And I was one of those guys that came back during the Vietnam era, which was quite an experience. It wasn't anything like World War II or even the Korean War veterans had at the time. So trying to tell people what your side of the story is really important to me. And I hope that I can facilitate this and maybe answer some questions that the public has or these guys have never told before. And sometimes it's even good to kind of story of getting it off your chest.
Right. Do you know the stories of these individuals?
No,
that are
I
coming
don't.
out?
Individually, I don't. And we're all veterans here in the county.
That's unbelievable, you know.
And we've met and in different events, but we usually don't talk about it.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing, you know, and Edith kind of touched on this as well. And you mentioned it too, Nelson, that, you know, oftentimes these stories just get internalized, whether it be, you know, kind of you know, just don't want to talk about it to relive it. You know, nobody asked, so they don't tell. You know, there's a lot of reasons veterans don't tell their stories, but, you know, in a way it can, I'm sure, be therapeutic.
Well, most definitely it is. And the fact that I don't want to say we're bragging or anything like that. It was, we want to try to emphasize we did it. Okay, then why did you do that? Well, we can say love of country, the flag, and just an experience that you'd never have before. It was a different experience.
Yeah.
And it was, in my case, 3 years of my life that I thought I could forget. And you remember it every day.
Yeah. And the stories that you all have, I'm not sure if the word I want to say is appropriate for the radio, but I mean, you guys are some, like, in a good way, some bad dudes. You know what I mean? like the stuff you guys have done is unbelievable. Like I was telling you, it was a Dave Hennard in here.
Yes.
I mean, the stuff he's done is unbelievable.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you all have stories to tell that I think would, I don't know. It would just be so cool to hear, I think.
Yeah. Well, we hope that'll be the case. And I've told people, just as a snippet to this, is that I came back from Vietnam, and 2 months after I was back from Vietnam, I was in the classroom teaching school in high school as an ag teacher. And okay, we figured out that was something I could use. If I said I was a Vietnam vet, they shut up. I seem to have no discipline problems because of what they thought I did.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it goes, you know, I think of, you mentioned that, you know, coming back, you were in the classroom. I think of the movie Saving Private Ryan, and he was a teacher back in America, but, you know, he's leading troops in World War II. So you all have an incredible backstory. In terms of maybe, Nelson, a direction you want the conversation to take, are you just going to let it happen organically? Is there something specific you'd like these gentlemen to talk about? How do you approach that?
Well, we ask the question. We hope that they'll go right into it, but I'm sure there's going to be a question on a question. Okay, we answer part of it. Well, then it'll lead to something else, and that's what I hope to be able to facilitate, is the lead on or the lead in to something else.
Yeah. I didn't want to say this, but you etched out an hour. I feel like you're going to need like all afternoon, you know, maybe have some food brought in for dinner to carry into the evening, you know, because like I said, there's so many stories that these veterans have. And, you know, if you're, kind of peeling back the onion, if you will, I mean, there's a lot of layers to what everybody did and their stories. And, you know, and then of course that takes us to, well, how did your experience returning home? You know, what was that like? Because that's a transition on its own for for seniors, for veterans. So it should be really, really fascinating conversation.
That transition is going on today. I mean, it doesn't matter what military experience you've had. That transition is totally different than what civilian life is. And
right.
if you don't have help figuring it out, sometimes it's a real problem.
Nelson Thorpe and Edith Brady-Lunny with us in studio today talking about a special event on Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, right?
Yes.
At the American Legion here in Clinton. Going to be hearing from a trio of veterans and their experiences. Edith, what do you hope to kind of get out of this from the Daughters of the American Revolution perspective?
Well, our DAR group supports veterans year round. We do collections of things that go to the VA hospital. We sign cards, anything that we can do during the year to support veterans. We're happy to do that with our Veterans Committee. But we have an annual Veterans Day event. Generally, it's a breakfast for veterans. And this year, we just thought we might switch it up a little bit. Instead of having veterans come for breakfast, we're going to have them come and share their stories. And then as the bonus, the DAR members, who are all better cooks than I am, are going to bring dessert.
Perfect.
So we'll have dessert afterwards. But we're hoping it's just gives a forum to the veterans to share their stories themselves.
Now, like all the Veterans Day things that go on in the community, isn't there something at CES? That'd probably be a better question for the CES folks.
I know you're talking about the elementary school.
Yeah.
I know they've done it at the past, and I know they had to hit the pause button during the pandemic.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know if they still have it, but our community does have a number of events, and it seems like lately we've had some new community groups stepping up. And I say you can't have too many events and honor veterans in too many ways.
What does that mean to you, Nelson, to hear things like that, but also feel the outpouring of support that the community offers?
Well, we really appreciate it. I don't know how many times you can say really, but the fact is that my experience coming home was, if it hadn't been for DeWitt County and my family, it'd have been a whole different situation. And so that support is greatly appreciated even now. And I don't mind people saying thank you for your service. Maybe it's an old cliche, but it really isn't. When you tell a veteran that, they understand and they enjoy it. So,
well, I'll tell you what, if it's okay, can we take a time out and Nelson hear maybe a few of your experiences? Is that all right?
Okay,
let's do it. All right, guys, let's take a break here. And again, that is Edith Brady-Lunny, Nelson Thorpe. And again, the event is Saturday, 2 o'clock at the American Legion. Nelson will be moderating a trio of veterans and just hearing their experiences and all those things. And we'll talk more with them coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson here with a supply chain update. While we're working as best we can to keep our shelves stocked with the items you need and want every day, we're experiencing never-before-seen interruptions in product availability and delivery, both through Save-A-Lot and our direct suppliers. In most cases, they can't run their production lines due to the lack of workers, plus a shortage of truck drivers. Despite all that, we're working to keep the meat, produce, and other products you buy in stock and on our shelves every day. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4-lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Hello, Panther fans. This is the voice of the Eastern Illinois University Panthers, Mike Brad, inviting all of our fans from Peoria and Bloomington Normal to the Indiana state line to listen for Panther football again this fall on WHOW's many platforms. EIU Panther football is part of WHOW's great weekend sports programming schedule, including a Best of Clinton Maroon sports broadcast and CBS Sports Radio. We'll bring you every Panther game this fall on Central Illinois' news, ag, and sports station, WHOW.
Every farmer feeds the world. A few take it further. Farmers who partner with Benson Hill to plant our high-protein, non-GMO soybeans do just that. Some Benson Hill varieties are higher in protein right out of the ground, contributing to more sustainable food manufacturing. The majority of our farmers earn more per acre planting Benson Hill soybeans than commodity beans. 2023 contracts are still available with our best incentive options expiring on November 15th. Visit BensonHillFarmers.com to earn more.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Nelson Thorpe, Edith, Brady-Lunny with us in studio today as they highlight an event coming up this Saturday at the American Legion at 2 o'clock. Nelson's going to moderate with a trio of local veterans on their experiences and the things that they did in service of our country. And so, Nelson, what is your experience in service? I see the Vietnam hats today. So how about your service and your experience?
Right. I'm the Vietnam era guy. I mean, I graduated from high school in 64, graduated from college 68. Everybody knows what was going on at that time. The Tet Offensive in 67, 68. All us male that could walk were knowing that we're going to be in the military some way or form or the other. DeWitt County Draft Board was very good at that. They made sure they didn't miss anybody. They gave you 4 years to graduate from college, no matter what your degree was in. As an ag teacher, I had to go to summer school to make sure I made it in 4 years. I came out of there. I enlisted in the Army. I wanted to have some idea of what I was going to do, and maybe by enlisting, I got more choices.
Did you?
So I did some. In other words, I was supposed to go into the armor or transportation. No, I ended up in the infantry. Okay, I'm fine with that. I made it.
In the Army? You were
in the Army
yeah.
infantry.
Okay.
Yes. Basically Fort Nick, New Jersey. Then I opted for OCS. So I went to Officer Candidate School in Fort Benning, Georgia. And after that, I was assigned to Fort Hood, Texas. Half my class was assigned to the United States. Half went to Germany. Because every one of us knew we were going to go to Vietnam as an officer, brand new officer. They were dying. Too many of them were dying. So that didn't happen. I got Fort Hood, Texas, a newly married guy. My wife went with me, drove down, and we came back to Clinton, got married, had 5 days to be on duty. We drove out of here that night. We got married to Killeen, Texas. And then after that, I got my orders out of Killeen, Texas to go to Vietnam.
Wow.
Well, then they delayed it again because then they went to jungle school. Then I went to Panama Canal for jungle school. After jungle school, I was able to come home for 3 days. Basically, so to speak, ran home 3 days, and then I went to Los Angeles and got on an airplane to Vietnam.
Wow. Jungle school. What was that like?
Bad.
Yeah.
No, jungle school really taught you what to do. And basically it was to survive in the swamp, to eat what you had to eat, and sleeping in a hammock in water, and then taking your boots off was not fun because you didn't know what was going to be in them when you took them off.
Oh, no.
The fact was that it was very good training down there.
Well, and you talked about the differences between like World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. The settings are vastly different. In World War II, there's a lot of countryside, there's a lot of city fighting. So but in Vietnam, you talked about jungle fighting, and you don't know who the enemy is because they're not in a uniform. They may be your friend by day. They could be an enemy at night. It was a totally different dynamic.
Totally. And we weren't totally prepared for that. I mean, even in 68, 69, we were winning all the battles, but losing the war. And the main thing that the press helped us lose it. I'll make that comment. But the fact is that we were doing everything we could to help the citizens of South Vietnam. And I was assigned to the 101st Air Mobile Unit in the north part of Vietnam. And the first day we got in country, they says, don't worry about ever using the sights on your M16 because you won't have time. So, okay. They had us shooting BB guns at warshers to get our hand-eye coordination together.
Oh, really?
In Vietnam.
Wow.
And that's what we did. So I was assigned to the mortars because I was just becoming a first lieutenant. And so I had 70 people the first day I assigned to my battalion, and I had 1681 mortars to take care of. And so I didn't sleep all night because I was in the Fire Direction Center, and I didn't sleep during the day because I had to go out and check all these guys.
Right. So what was your role in Vietnam, in terms of like, were you a part of the conflicts? Were you like, what was that like for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it was. So I got over there literally in late 70, and it's supposed to be over, right? It wasn't over. We were having somebody hurt or killed almost every day. And I ended up as forward support platoon leader for the battalion And
Now, what does that mean?
Basically, I was their mother. I took care of toilet paper to ammunition to their mail every day. I took care of every supply item that they needed out in the field. So for 700 people, they counted on my 15 guys to get them everything. And the first thing we'd get them every day is their mail. And they came out in red bags. By midnight, I'd have all the supply list ready. I would ship it back to Fubai by secure radio. They would have it all ready and bring it out by Chinook the next morning. Then we would divide it up into platoons, and then each platoon would be supplied that day. And it was a job that you never got done, and it was never a dull moment because it was 7 days a week.
Wow.
And you were working on this the whole time. Then in between times, you were taking care of the fire base and you were trying to protect yourself. And
now, was it like an active area?
Yes, yes. We were right next to DMZ, within 5 miles most of the time. And we were the North Vietnamese Army is what we hit.
Gotcha.
And then kind of our morale thing that didn't help us, that we were hitting North Vietnamese Army regulars that had new weapons and new uniforms, and I was having trouble getting boots.
Oh, really?
United States Army.
Oh, wow. Now, you mentioned something that's come up a lot when people talk about the Vietnam War. What you talked about, the press didn't help in, like, you know, the messaging of that. How much of that did you see when you were there? Was it disheartening? Do you mind speaking to that experience at all?
Well, disheartening, yes, and the fact that we weren't given the support we needed. We got beat up pretty bad more than once, and we had to call through our command structure to get permission to fire back. We saw them firing at us. We saw the mortar tubes fire, but we couldn't fire back until we had permission from 3 or 4 different people. And we're sitting there getting beat up, and we knew where they were, but they wouldn't let us go get them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And this was just us. They weren't, and they would mess with the civilians in the area, which we were trying to protect.
Wow. Nelson, a couple of minutes. How long were you in Vietnam? Did your roles change? Did your role change at all as you were there? How about that real fast?
I went over there as a platoon leader in mortars, and within a month I was forward support supply officer, and I stayed that way the rest of the time. And I was over there 10 months and 1 week.
How much did you sleep?
A couple of days.
Yeah.
You felt like you never slept. Now, I can tell you, I got back to California, met my wife. I was a nervous wreck. I didn't have anything on me, you know, in a crowd. They told us to watch it, that you weren't supported at home. Don't wear your uniform off the post. I didn't have anything but my uniform. I didn't have any clothes.
Oh, no.
But I got there, and my wife told me I slept for 24 hours.
Wow,
I finally got in a place I could sleep.
Wow. Edith, highlight when folks can hear more of stories like that from guys like Nelson Thorpe.
Sure.
How about that?
We're going to be meeting on Saturday, 2:00 at the American Legion Hall. And we're going to hear multiple stories that hopefully will have the same kind of detail that Nelson's did. This is the perfect example of what we want to share, because we have dozens of these stories out in DeWitt County that we need to hear.
Yep, plenty more as well. Again, our guests in studio today, Edith Brady-Lunny, Nelson Thorpe with us. Network news on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.